Build Your Business listeners. This is Matt Reynolds, your host for the podcast, and you are listening to what we are calling the legacy episodes. And really, these are the pre-episodes that really led to this podcast, the Build Your Business podcast. This is really my life's work and my brother's life's work in building your business. And so they were originally published in the Barbell Logic podcast as part of the Principles or Coaching Success series, but really touch on similar topics to the Build Your Business podcast: how to improve your productivity, how to set and accomplish your goals, deprioritize urgent tasks, to focus on what is most important to you, and most importantly, to become a better person and leader and business owner overall. I'm proud to bring you these podcasts. Again, many years of life's work, several years of podcasts, and several decades of business ownership. Hope you enjoy them and learn from them. You're listening to Barbell Logic, brought to you by Barbell Logic Online Coaching, where each week we take a systematic walk through strength training and the refining power of voluntary hardship. Welcome to the Barbell Logic podcast. This is a Principles series edition. I'm here with my brother, Chris Reynolds, and it has been a tough day for us at the Reynolds household. Chris,
yes, sounds like it.
We lost I lost my pup, and of 14 years, Bentley, my boxer, beautiful black and white boxer I've had for 14 years, and got up this morning. You know, he's old, 14 years old, and the good news is that he didn't appear to suffer at all. Let him out last night to go to the bathroom before I went to bed, put him in his kennel along with our other dog, our Boston Terrier, and he was completely fine, and petted him, told him good night, closed the kennel, put a little blanket over the kennel to make it nice and dark in there for him, and got up this morning to let him out to go to the bathroom. I opened both kennels, and I didn't think anything was wrong. It just looked like he was still sleeping. You know, sometimes they're still sleepy when I get up so early. I'm like, let the Boston Terrier out, and then I was like, why isn't the boxer moving? And so he passed in the night, and it's been tough at the Reynolds household, and so it was hard to say goodbye. For people who have pets, first off, people who know me know that I'm not a big pet guy. I'm not a huge animal guy, and it's been very difficult. We actually lost a kitty cat, about 10 days ago as well, so we lost two animals in a span of a week and a half. And the kitty cat was only 2 and was my youngest daughter's, and it just got something wrong. We took it to the vet a bunch of times. It stopped eating, wouldn't eat, and kind of just wasted away. We had to watch the kitty cat suffer, which sucked. But my dog Bentley, the boxer, he didn't seem to suffer at all. He was just old, and it appears that probably his heart just stopped in the middle of the night, but still made for a hard day. And and sort of having a little like kind of family memorial, and we buried him in the backyard and stuff, and it's all just super emotional. So it's been a tough day. He was a great dog. I think the thing that is maybe the most emotional for me is that 14 years, to think about how much my life has changed in 14 years.
Oh, yeah.
And that he saw all of it. And
we lost 2 in the last over the last several years, and the first one, when we lost our first dog, I mean, these were our dogs that we had before we had kids.
Yep.
So they were our babies before we had babies.
And they're the only thing your kids ever knew.
Yeah. And we just walked around crying for a week. That's what we did.
Yep.
That's we'd cross each other in the hallway. Jenny and I would, and we just cried. And you know, it's freaking hard. You get really, really attached to a dog, and that's the way it should be. And I do in some ways I envy both of our dogs. We got to the point where they had to be put down because they were in pain. They were in so much pain. But Bentley went out like a champ, man. I mean, that's the way to go if there is a way to go.
Yeah, I agree. Like, and he, I didn't even know, and he didn't bark in the night. We're fairly light sleepers, especially my wife. Like, if he had any pain or anything in the night, he would have barked. Yeah. Amazingly enough, I don't think that Bella, our Boston, who literally sleeps right next to him in a separate kennel, but the kennels are literally touching each other, and they're open so they can see each other. I don't think she knew. It was
Yeah.
bizarre. I don't think she knew that, because when I let her out this morning, she went running out to go to the bathroom, and then he didn't come, and then she came back to the door like, "Where's Bentley?" And looked in, and then she saw that I was messing with him, and she started barking like, "What the hell's going on?" But yeah, so it's been tough. Lots of tears around the house, and but good memories and a wonderful dog, and so we'll miss you, Bentley, for sure. So we want to talk about something. Again, you and I had kind of a long conversation before this, and I want to be sensitive and recognize that again, the world is crazy and the world's hurting, and man, I want to stay as apolitical as we possibly can right now on the show. I want to be a source of encouragement and entertainment, and I recognize that some people think maybe that it is we are called to maybe speak our minds a little bit more. I'm trying to run a company that wants to get people strong, and I want to be able to provide some relief from the stress that's going on in the world right now. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about some of the things that actually, one of the things that I've really enjoyed over the last few weeks, that in the midst of COVID, in the midst of all the stuff that's going on in our country politically and culturally, that I can still find brings me value and actually gives me a tremendous amount of stress relief. And for me, that's actually good old-fashioned hard work, like actual manual labor hard work. And I just love it. I love what it gets me. And so I wanted to spend a few minutes and talk about the actual value that I get from hard work.
There's nothing like it. It's so crazy how it's like your body's made for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your brain is made for it. You get this rush of endorphins when you're out doing physical labor. Our family cleared some area in the backwoods of our house last week, I think, or the week before. And you get done and you can look over it and you can see what you did. You made an impact, and it's cool, And also, when you get done with it, you're done.
That's right.
Like you're done as far as that goes, and that especially for a knowledge worker, that is such a rare occurrence. That this is a great feeling to be able to do some work. You get the endorphins. You're out there kind of sweating, getting your stuff done. You turn around and look at the work you did, and it's right there to be seen. And there's something just incredibly satisfying about that.
Yeah. Well, first off, I haven't always liked it, right? As you know, and you've made fun of me some on the show in the past, that I used to absolutely hate manual labor, and I would do anything I could to get out of it. Growing up, I hated even doing stuff like even like mowing the lawn, certainly weed eating. We lived on for most of our high school life, we lived on like 5 acres, and mom and dad demanded that we mowed and weed eat all of it. 5 acres is a lot to weed eat and trim around like the fence posts and all that stuff. I hated that stuff. Or to shirk carrying the groceries in, from a grocery trip or whatever those things were. And I went through this period even back when I was a teacher, because even as a teacher, your work is really never done, right? Like and it's very hard to tangibly see what I was doing as a teacher. Like you hoped you were helping the kids and you hoped you were making an impact, but it's hard to really know. And we've talked about this on the show as well, that I would spend some time like renovating your house or renovating our cousin Phil's house. And I got a lot of value out of that for those very reasons. Like, I could go do it. It didn't take a tremendous amount of mental thought. So it opened up mental capacity to think about important things, because a lot of the stuff you're just doing this good hard manual labor, and so your brain gets to think about stuff. And like you said, there's this wonderful amount of closure that occurs when the stuff's done. You can look back, even every single day, you can look back and say, oh, look what I did today. It didn't look like this at the beginning of the day, and now it does. And that's come with me in my life here now. We've done a pretty nice garden this year, raised bed garden, and built it with the family, and kind of did that in the midst of the quarantine. And I've really gotten into my yard lately. I'm that guy. I'm Neat Dad, from the Neat Dad account on Instagram, wearing my white New Balance shoes, and not really the white New Balance shoes, but yeah, just I like working in my yard, and I like trimming the trees. I like trimming my garden, and I like putting the posts in and planting flowers and doing that stuff. Working in the garage, or we've bought the rural land, and going out and clearing land. Clearing land that's some of the hardest work you ever do.
That's so hard.
Chainsaw, brush cutters.
Yeah.
But gosh, you're talking about what a satisfying piece of work, a job to do when we're out there.
When I was, I think I was 14, when our uncle Steve, who's our dad's brother, had a job for me to go basically clear land, mow, that kind of thing over a summer in a place close to Branson. And that job was so hard. You got done with the job.
And they paid us like $4.25 an hour, remember?
Right.
They paid us under minimum wage, and we were below the age limit. So we were younger than 16. So like they had violated
the legality is questionable.
Yes. So
for sure.
All the child labor laws were violated.
But I was excited to earn a buck. And, but what was really shocking to me is we could get up so early and go out and do this work. And when I got done at the end of long days, I mean, we did 10, 12-hour days of that type of work. You got done, you're drenched in sweat, you stink. I mean, you smell like, you kind of stink. Fresh cut grass kind of smells nice. Depends
on, but the combination of fresh cut grass and BO.
And BO.
And a sweaty 11-year-old.
Yeah, there's always some gasoline smell in there.
That's right.
But you get done, and man, to look over a vast quantity of land and see that you had done this work that now looks nice. Like you've cut trails and you've done all this stuff, and it's such an incredible feeling. And I remember being young and recognizing how great that feeling was. And I think to some degree, that can be, especially if any of you have kids who are sort of entering their teen years, that's one of the great things you can give them. They may not feel that way to start, but it's like the first domino that knocks over other dominoes later, that you can be someone who does this hard work and you actually get this incredible feeling out of it. And physical hard labor has even the extra value of the endorphins and all those things.
Yeah, it's funny as we both talk about our memories of doing hard work growing up. I think we did the job for the money, but looking back now as adults, we don't remember the money and we don't remember what we bought with the money, but we remember the way we felt at the end of the day when we did the work. And so I'm often trying to explain, especially to my oldest daughter, but to both my kids, the value of hard work. And I've told them, like, I'm talking about the value beyond what the work gets us, i.e. money. It's not about the money. Like, yes, making money for working is important because at some point you have to support yourself and do the thing, right? And they also watch me specifically work really hard at my job here at Barbell Logic as the CEO of a company which looks nothing like planting the garden, right? And also doesn't ever have closure, and also it doesn't give you the same endorphins. I don't get any of that stuff. So and I love my job here, but I like to do the hard work outside or the manual labor because it gets me something that my normal job doesn't. It gets me those things, like the value of the work itself. There's value in that hard work, and I love it. I think it's an extreme sense of satisfaction for me to be able to experience that. And so, yes, even it is very nice to be able to look back and see, like, I did this thing and, like, I trimmed the trees or I cleared the brush or I planted the garden, and all those things are good. But there's actually something about the internal satisfaction you get from the work itself that nothing else can give you. It's the only thing that'll do that for you.
Yeah, I'd read a couple of accounts of where apparently this effect is a little stronger in men than it is in women. Almost like that hard physical labor that you're doing, there are extra endorphins that you get from doing that type of work. And so there's a scientific background to this that helps. Part of it is, I mean, I think all of us could agree that if it's evolutionary design or whatever, however you think we got to this point as humans, it's a very new phenomena for us to sit in front of computers for 10 hours a day. And there's a lot going on. We know that our brain is affected by the things that we do with our body. We know that exercise, for example, helps with depression and anxiety and all these other things. Well, it turns out that a lot of that stuff is because for an enormous amount of time, we had to go out and physically work. We had to go out and labor to find food, and we had to go do all these things. And if it wasn't rewarding in and of itself, then it probably would have been a real struggle
you would have
for our species to survive.
That's right.
So,
for all of human history, we were hunter-gatherers, farmers, those things, right? Like that's even the technological advance from hunter-gatherer to agriculture was a big step in humans moving forward, and yet they're both still super manual labor, work intensive. And so I think that we were made to be that way. And we live a life, especially the past 50 years or so, where most of us now sit in front of a computer or at an office in a chair, and it's not really what we were called to something better. And I don't mean that even in a religious sense, although certainly it can be taken that way as well. But I mean, we're just like, that's not what we were made to do. It's like taking, it's not the same thing as a domesticated cat. It's like taking a tiger. It's like taking a lion and trying to put them in a zoo. But they're not made to be in a zoo. They're made to be wild and free. And so I think for us, there is some of that deep rooted in our instinct to say, this is what I'm wired to do this stuff. There's something about being out in the heat and sweating and doing the work and seeing the fruits of your labor that is extremely satisfying. And I can't get that when I'm on Zoom calls all day. I don't get done and be like, you know what? Crushed 7 Zoom calls today, only did 5 yesterday. Yeah. I never have any satisfaction. Matter of fact, every additional Zoom call brings me a little less satisfaction as opposed to more satisfaction. But doing the work outside brings me more. I like it.
I think there's value, and you can overreach here, but there is value, I think, in looking towards what an ideal circumstance is for our minds and bodies, right?
Sure.
So essentially, you could say what we've been designed for. You could say what we've evolved to. You can say that whatever.
Right.
I'm not
what we're supposed to be.
I'm not trying to chain you to an ideology. I'm just saying one way or the other. And I remember reading a while ago, like everybody got pretty excited about like paleo diet, and then a few years later, there were a bunch of articles that were like, yeah, Paleolithic man did not eat this diet. And,
right, sure.
There's been variations on these things, but there is value in figuring out what things are just drastically departed from the way that we should function as human beings.
Sure.
And one other great thing about manual labor, when you can get it, and this would be my recommendation to people who do this or have the ability to do it, is to take your phone and set it in your house and be nowhere near it when you're doing it. Because if there's anything that our minds are totally unprepared for, and I am convinced we will find a huge body of scientific evidence in the long run about this, it is that smartphones are totally outside of what we are capable of dealing with.
Sure.
The constant pings, the constant, everybody's had the phantom buzz. That's the other thing. Yep. The phantom buzz in your pocket.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Yeah.
Like that it's such a wide phenomenon that we all can have a cell phone in our pocket and feel the buzz, pull it out, and there was no buzz.
Right. Because there is a buzz so often.
So frequently. Any feeling, basically, that rubs slightly against your leg, you're like, that's a buzz, what's going on? And so, whenever if you do get the opportunity to get out, do some yard work, or, work on the garage, paint the house, whatever you're doing, I highly recommend taking your phone and putting it somewhere that's nowhere near you.
So what I do is, for me right now, this is really my manual labor manifests itself in every day. I go out and do some work in the yard every day right now, and I've got a nice lawn, and I use the irrigation system, and I'm trimming up the hedges and working out in the garden and pulling the weeds and stuff. But I like listening to an audiobook or podcast out there. So what I do is I just take my phone and put it out on the deck and
There
turn
you
it on
go.
do not disturb face down so
Yeah.
it's not in my pocket, and I have my earbuds in so the earbuds will still pick up the Bluetooth from it, but the phone's not going off. And I've actually started doing it early in the morning. So what I've been doing, my daily routine has changed a little bit. So first off, I've now trained 4 days a week. Every week, this is my 5th week. I pulled 555 a little while ago, by the way. Not too bad,
Nice
right?
job.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty easy. 555 deadlift.
Nice.
Didn't feel like it came off the ground easy, but then I watched the video and I was like, oh, that was fast. It was fine.
Yeah.
And
The
so
video sometimes tells you that things are much easier than you thought they were in your head.
yeah, that's
I've
also weird
noticed.
for me because I watch so many videos of people lifting, so I know what hard looks like. But it's been a long time since I've been strong and grinding through a 700-pound deadlift or something. Like, I just don't have it in me right now to grind through something like that. And it's not.
Yeah.
I'm just not used to it. Just that so I'm having those same talks with myself that I have to have with my clients right now about having to like learn the grind again, like learn
Grind
that it's
through it.
okay. And what
Yeah.
felt really heavy and felt like a grind, watch the video, it really wasn't. And so
Yeah.
all those things are there. So one of the things I've done is I get up early in the morning still. And by the way, I want to do a podcast at some point about kind of getting up early and the value I get in that. And I don't want to give stuff away. I just that comes natural to me. Like, I don't get up early because, like, if I hated it, I wouldn't do it. I've gotten to the point where I don't even set my alarm anymore, and I
don't either.
never sleep past 6. I mean, 6 is like I really slept in. Most of the time, it's like 4:15. But and I get up and I do my basic online coaching urgent stuff first. Very first thing, it's dark outside typically. Like 4:30, it's still pitch black. Do that, and when the sun starts to come up, I go outside and I work in the yard, work in the garden, pull weeds, little things like that, trim a few things. A lot of times listen to a podcast or an audiobook. And then I come in and I make some food. And then I've been training every morning by 8:30 every morning. So by the
Yeah.
time I train, I've already done all the urgent work at work. And I've done the work around the yard, which it's in the middle of the summer now. And so it's really hot. So a great time to do that's at 6:30 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and not at 1:30 in the afternoon. And I'll train, and then I'll get to come back and do the big stuff, the important stuff for my job. And it's actually worked really, really well. And then we get to, about this time during the day, get to kind of early to mid-afternoon. And after we get done recording the podcast, I'll shut this thing down and I'll switch over to husband Matt, daddy Matt, and we'll go out and we'll hang out at the pool for a while and maybe nap and, dinner and Netflix. And that's kind of life right now. And so that hard work really brings me some value. And then we'll go out about once or twice a week right now down to the rural land and work the rural land. And that's real hard work. That's not for 45 minutes or an hour in the mornings. That is 5 hours, 6 hours where you are like where a ice cold bottle of water has never tasted so good sort of
Yeah.
stuff. And it's also rough out there and there's ticks. And so here's the middle of the summer, but you always have to wear jeans and boots because if you wear shorts, you're going to come up and you're going to have all the ticks in your buoy hole. Like that one time you and I had. Remember that one time we got all the ticks in our
I remember
buttholes?
multiple
That was-
times.
that was- what is it about all those weird crevices that the ticks love so much?
I don't know, man. They like the heat.
I guess. And the moist.
Yeah.
That's what makes the butthole a perfect place. So,
What's
yeah.
funny? I get
love
the
it.
same. I don't know if you get this. Do you get the same effect from a little bit of adventurous hiking or something?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I
so
went
it's-
out and tried to sleep on my land a few weeks ago. Did I tell you this? I know I haven't told that story. I really don't want to even tell it because everybody's going to make fun of me. But I went out to basically with nothing but a bug out bag.
There
And I
you
was
go.
like, I'm going to stay the night on my land, right? And I went home at 11:30 that night.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, this is not. I've decided against this. And, but yeah, it was fun and I got there at like 2 in the afternoon. So I spent a good long, pretty much, all day, most of the day, made a fire, had dinner, had made food, had water, stuff like that. But at some point I was like, but yeah, exactly. Like those kind of hikes are like when we go out to Colorado and we hike out in the middle of nowhere. You're like,
Especially if you get a little lost.
yeah, where you like, you
I
could
think
get
I
eaten
think
by
that's
a bear.
important. We took our bikes from the house out into the Needham Forest, which is just a few blocks away, and there's a little bike path that gets you on an old railway. So we took the old railway out as far as we could take it. It's a bike trail now. On the way back, Jenny says, "Hey, I think maybe the railway takes you all the way back to the street. Let's do that. So we get, that general direction, and there's just like this hard stop, like this.
All right.
And this little trail kind of goes off, and I was like, well, somebody's charted a little trail that gets us back to the road.
This.
So remember, we're like holding bikes, and I'm a family of 5 with 3 little kids, trying to hold their bikes. We start going through this thing, man. It is high. There are high, rocks, mountains, little things in there or whatever, and we're trying to haul bikes up of it. At some point, everyone is a little bit afraid that we're never getting out of the town forest, which, by the way, is very small. And if you walk very long, you're going to hit something and be fine.
Like a street.
But that little bit of danger that's in there and like sort of getting through it, we got done. Everybody was just super happy. Like we were just like, everybody's just loaded on endorphins. You've done the exercise and you've gone through the work. And I get a lot of that same feeling. And I did when I did long runs too. I know we talked about that last week or the week before, that my wife would drive me out to several towns away and then I'd have to come back. That little feeling of danger throughout the process of the physical exertion, it really has always amplified that effect for me, and I still love it.
Yeah, that's good. So the takeaway is, if you haven't got out and done some of this for a while, get out and do some manual labor. Like do some work around your yard. I'm not saying to mow your lawn. Now, hear us clearly. Neither one of us would tell you go mow your lawn. That's a terrible idea. But find some good manual labor, plant a garden. I love taking on like a little mini construction project in your house, like redoing a room, doing some built-in shelves or a desk. That's another great thing to do. So it doesn't always have to be outside. You'll find that there's value in the work itself, and you'll know that because if you're doing it for yourself, you're not getting paid. So. And by the way, I still think I pay my kids to do that stuff because I want to motivate them in the beginning to want to do the work. So when we built the garden, I paid the girls and they worked their butts off. Not just my daughters, but our nieces, our sister's kids. They came out and worked their butts off, like digging. We put a big giant 6x6 lawn timbers around the garden, and they had to clear out the trench for the 6x6s, and they were super heavy. They weighed a ton, and they were treated wood and all that stuff. And so so I was like, look, I'll pay you well, and they got paid for it. But I still think now they would have the same memory of that from 3-4 months ago when they did it than the money they got paid. The money they got paid, they probably would. They don't know what they did. They went and bought something at the mall, or they bought some earphones or something, but they'll remember the work they did. And so you're starting to try to instill that idea of there's value in the work itself, not just what the work gets you via the money. So money is the one thing. The completion of a task well done is another thing and is very valuable. But I actually think that there's value even in not completing the task, right? Even in just doing the work, right? Just chopping wood, just like, baling hay, like the kind of stuff that really is you're never done chopping wood. You're never done baling hay. Like there's work that sometimes there's still value in that, and you'll still find a lot of satisfaction in doing it. And so, especially if you have a job like Chris and I have had, like I have, where you're stuck in an office all day, staring at a screen, get out and do something that makes you sweat, and you'll find tremendous value from that.
Totally agree.
Awesome. It's been another Principles episode on the Barbell Logic podcast. You guys will notice a slight schedule change. So we are moving the Principles episodes to Thursdays, and we'll continue that for a while. And then I'll just tease out, we got some series coming, which I'm pretty excited about. We're going to bring back some of the old series and kind of digitally remaster them and do some cool stuff with them and narrate them a little bit and start to put out series kind of Netflix style. So be on the lookout for those coming up soon. And we'll punch out like a 8-part series all at the same day so people can get the entire series at once. And pretty excited about where that's going. So thank you for listening. And we will see you, since this is Thursday, we will not do our podcast on Sunday. We'll see you on Monday morning. See you then.